Hey, Larry, we should be ready when you are.
Okay, good. Thank you, Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first of two meetings for the month of February. We're going to be meeting again in 2 weeks from today. So we'll continue on our path to putting things together. The first thing we're going to do is do a roll call. And Jeannie, you'll go ahead and do that. I'll just go ahead and say I'm present.
Okay, very good. And Brent Geyer?
Present.
Jill Cobb?
Present.
And Susie Hatfield is planning on joining later. Bob Mansfield?
Here.
Nick Olteen?
Here.
Debbie Trinan?
Here.
Terry Hill?
Here.
And Jana Osler?
Here.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. First order of business, we're going to look at the minutes from the January 19th meeting. First, is there anyone that sees anything, any corrections, changes that need to be done? Okay, not hearing any. I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Mansfield would make a motion like that.
Thanks, Bob. And we're looking for a second.
Brent will second that.
Okay, all in favor? I think we're okay to probably just raise our hands. That work, Jeannie?
It would probably be better if you just called for ayes and then call for nays.
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Aye.
do we have any nays? Okay, so it looks like the minutes have passed as presented. So today, as far as action items, we're going to review our definitions of land use. I think one of the things that we did not do this past time or didn't finish this last time, we were looking at the goals for land use this past meeting, and I know we didn't quite finish that work. So Milton, I know, was going back and he was looking at some of the policy statements, especially under the first goal, which was the Priest Lake area will support healthy outdoor centered lifestyles. I know there were some things there that he was going to go back and kind of think about and come up with some response there. I think we also possibly made it through the section that under the, looks like the third goal was to protect the water quality of our lakes, rivers, streams, and develop as development occurs. So I guess from here, probably I'll turn it over to Milton, and he can kind of help facilitate our working through this and looking at the different suggestions that we may have. So go ahead, Milton.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. So I did some research on the carrying capacity of the lake, and that can pretty much, the challenge with that is there's just so many variables that we could analyze and cause to be analyzed that having a carrying capacity or managing by the carrying capacity, this organization's not set up for that. If we had other organizations we could turn to that could provide and kept track of that data, there might be some interest in that, but I just didn't see a way to put that together at this point. So, you know, we need to make we just need to make sure that our goals are um, appropriate for the, you know, the folks that are having to review them. It's one of the more frustrating things is not being able to provide a good analysis because we just don't have access to the way to analyze it. So so I moved away from the carrying capacity of the lake, although like it is done in other areas. It really came down to there's so many variables, right? Things to measure. What else? I don't see the participants. There we go. Okay. So now I can.
So Milton, the question came up at the last meeting having to do with our goals and the policies, I think relating to the our lakes, rivers. And the question was, should that be tied to data or something that has to do with the carrying capacity of the lake? And what you're saying is that you really can't, as far as Bonner County is concerned, really don't have a way to control that.
Correct.
Okay.
The other thing that I found interesting was, and I sent this out to the group, was the sewer districts, because some of the goals in here talk about let me see if I can find it. I'm at the end of that. Anyhow, talk about that new development should be in sewer areas away from state lands. And so when I sent you the this one here, limit high density development to the areas within sewer districts that are not state, federal, or commercial timberlands. So that's why I sent you those maps to show you that the sewer districts do indeed encompass state land. So there's several sewer districts that they've drawn their lines around those state lands. I don't know if they just do that out of convenience to draw a square, so they don't have to come up with a very difficult legal description when they create their district. It's probably what they've done is just gone the easy route, trying to define a square instead of define a bunch of jagged lines. So perhaps that goal is appropriate in that it does call out that even though the state and federal lands are in the sewer district, they shouldn't be considered for high density development, which is what I think that goal says, right? Very good. So if you hear construction noise, we're just putting the finishing touches on a wall in my office, or a wall to my office, or a wall of my office, and a door. So if you hear, you know, nail guns or loud screaming, that's what's going on. So do you want to finish up these last two goals and then move on?
Sounds fine.
Okay. Here we go. So this to protect the outstanding, prevent any degradation, water quality of our areas, lakes, and streams as development occurs. Any other comments that we need to go over here? Did we start with this or finish with this? Direct new development to areas away from,
Has his hand up.
oh yeah, there we go. Nick, go ahead.
I noticed it appeared that there were some policies that were changed since the last time we went over that. Um, and did you indicate that you had sent that out to folks to review? Because I had not seen anything here recently sent out in terms of changes to goals and policies.
So Nick, I really want to tell you, I appreciate the fact that you think I have some extra time to work on this in between meetings, but I don't. And so these changes were made at the last meeting. If you'll see the indication here, that new right there was added at the last meeting, and timely crossed out, that was added at the last meeting. I've not opened this document until today. I've spent all of my time doing research on the things that we talked about.
Well, the part that I was kind of confused by is right where you just went back, you scrolled up and you had referred to a policy that had to do with right there. Okay. Limit high density development to the areas within sewer districts that are not state, federal, or commercial timberlands. I guess I did not. I don't remember us putting that in last time, but maybe it was just. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just didn't. I did not remember
I
seeing
guess
that.
so. Yeah, I guess so, because that is in the green. So
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just it
Yeah,
looked like
no,
it looked like something I had not seen before. But thank you.
yep. Yeah, I will send this out. You just the next, what can I say? The next couple months are going to be extremely busy. So I'll try to get this sent out. The work that you see done on this plan will be done today, and I will try and send this out as soon as we're done, so you can have a chance to look at all over and check it. So just so you understand that yeah, we're busy. So this green color is the stuff that we added at the last meeting. So I have not come back to this document. So what, any other zoning district should foster compact developments near transportation hubs? I don't see anything that needs changed. Go ahead, Jill, please.
That spot that you and Nick were talking about, there's one of the statements ends with the word shall, and then it's just kind of left hanging. And I wonder if you wanted to go back to that. It looks like it was input on the 22nd of January
Oh, yeah.
at 4:35.
Maybe I did
It's
add that.
whenever, yeah, it was put in at the same
Give me
time that
some
the other one
credit.
was.
Maybe I did add those.
I
Good thing I
think
keep
maybe when
track
you
of
were
this stuff.
reviewing, yeah, I think that's what happened. But I'm wondering what your thoughts were with the word shall. It's kind of we're kind of hanging there.
Hmm. Son of a gun. I wonder if I copied this from somewhere. And I really apologize.
I wouldn't think
That
so. Only because the word designations is misspelled. So if you copied it, it would have been correctly spelled, I think.
Yep.
But be that what it may, what were your
We
thoughts on
can
the shall?
delete that.
No. Was there a thought?
Well, I'm sure there was.
Does anyone else in the group have anything to add to that piece before we delete it? Otherwise, I'm good with deleting it. I just wanted to make sure nobody else had a reason.
Yeah, that was a good catch. I'm thinking that it had to be something to do with sewer districts, which is why that's why I highlighted those sewer districts. Is what I was concerned about was that the sewer districts really are large, and so the sewer districts are the justification to build along the lake and to build high density. It's really hard to justify requiring large lots with sewer districts in place because of the expense of the sewer district, right? So the intent of services is to lower the cost, right? So the more people paying into the sewer district lowers the cost across the board. And so that's the challenge with those sewer districts. And they're just really large. And so um, so that's why I sent that out. I guess I expected a little more robust conversation from that email that I sent out with those maps.
And the sewer districts might be geographically large, Milton, but from
Correct.
what little I know, the capacity is really limited. And so to allow additional people to use the sewage lagoons that exist might require that the sewer lagoon expands its current lagoons. And that is an incredibly high cost that we're wrestling with here in Kalispell.
Yeah, but my goodness, some of the lots I've seen for sale, there are folks that would be willing to pay those fees in order to create those lots. So it you can't expect that to be a deterrent.
I hear what you're saying, and that's an issue with the lid, but I think there might be a rub at some point where people say, you know what, we cannot allow any more people onto the sewer district.
Yep.
And I don't know how the county is going to work with the lid on that. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that topic.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's good. Very good. Terry, go ahead. Terry, you have your hand up? You have to unmute. You have your hand in? Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute it. I'm just chatting away here. I forgot to unmute it. If our goal is to try, this is Terry Hill, so give me a minute. If our goal is to try to keep Priest Lake vying for the beauty that it is and not have it get overcrowded, in my mind, having little lots would defeat that purpose. If having little lots so that you could afford to enlarge a sewer system defeats that purpose, I think it's better to err on the side of, if we have to have a sewer lagoons enlarged, which I'm sure we do because we're growing, that's the cost of being part of Priest Lake that you then will have to bear. I'm sorry if you weren't here 50 years ago. Over.
Right. Debbie?
I think the sewer districts are more mandated by DEQ than the county, aren't they? The county doesn't have anything to do with sewer districts. Once a sewer district reaches capacity, they either need to apply with DEQ and go through Panhandle Health. They don't, I mean, you guys are just going to hold developers to needing sewer, is how I understand that it works.
Well, but their justification, the sewer districts, their justification for high density lots and more development, right? So that's the challenge with the sewer districts is you're right, they're out of our control. Once they get to a certain size, you have to expand them. And that expansion can come from individual, private money, or it can come from state money, right? Especially if it's forced to happen because of contamination, then the state gets involved and then it's state money that comes in and fixes it. So that the challenge.
Yeah, but what I'm and if everybody's concerned that we're going to have all these small lots, Title 12 and Bonner County zoning already has in place that you can't have these small lots less than an acre without sewer. So they're going to have to figure out a way to reconcile that. The developer's going to have to figure out a way to reconcile that, either with existing sewer districts or by installing a new one. That's not something that we can, it's already there, isn't it?
Yep. Nick, go ahead.
I'm concerned that we're dismissing the concept of the carrying capacity of the lake as being a viable consideration. I think it's a crucial one for us at Priest Lake. As we know, the nutrient loading has to be maintained at a point where it's not causing for huge algae blooms and some of the other problems that come with it. There are folks that are doing, and I think Jill mentioned this before, there are some folks over in Kalispell that are doing some fairly detailed studies, and these are very well qualified individuals that are doing an assessment, and they're concerned. And those concerns being expressed indicate that we are very close to the currently close to the carrying capacity of the lake. For us to ignore that, I think would be very remiss. Again, the quality of the lake is something all of us value, and to not take that into consideration as we put this together, I think would be a mistake.
So Nick, not to make light of a subject that's pretty serious, but when I did a search on carrying capacity of the lake, the first link that came up was the number of boats allowed on the lake. I mean, so carrying capacity, right? What does that mean? And so, is it just phosphorus, or is it? There's so many variables. What is it? And you say that Priest Lake is close to its carrying capacity. Again, for what? For the number of trout that it can handle, for the number of different types of fish that it can handle, for the number of plants that it can handle. I mean, you see the challenge, and we're just so limited on. The county has absolutely no expertise in any of this, and so we would have to require outside studies for all of this. And then we'd have to require outside reviews. So it's just interesting. Let's start with Debbie.
Milton, you just brought up exactly what I was going to ask. And when I saw the term carrying capacity in the email, I think it was from Jill, I can't remember, but what exactly, when you're talking about carrying capacity, are you referring to, Nick, specifically? Because the first thing that came to my mind was the number of boats. And when I Googled carrying capacity in reference to land use, it wasn't just a lake. It was the carrying capacity of the roads, the carrying capacity of fire, the carrying capacity of sewer. So when you use the reference carrying capacity of the lake, what specifically are you referring to?
I was referring to limiting factors that impact algae growth and other invasive species within the lake. Nutrient loading is important, and for us to take in consideration. And when I talk about nutrient loading, I talk about nitrogen and phosphorus. And there are some, again, very well qualified folks over in Kalispell that are currently, for the past few years, have been doing some studies that I think, again, we would be remiss to not at least take a look at what they're doing and consider it and recognize the research that has come out indicating that we are probably close to a tipping point on our lake. And in terms of, again, algae growth, I think all of us have seen the lakes to the south of us and some of the disastrous growth that has occurred, and it winds up impacting everybody. It impacts real estate values. It impacts the ability to swim, to do all the things that we enjoy doing up at Priest Lake. So again, we need to be very intelligent in terms of how we approach, again, where we have future development, not just from an aesthetic standpoint, but also from a water quality standpoint that I think all of us agree is very important.
Before we go to Jill, let me just say that I don't have a problem with this, with a goal like this. You just have to understand that this is, we're just way at the beginning of this. It's got to be approved by the planning commission and by the board. And so the more clear we can explain and understand, the more likely it is to translate. But it's got to translate through those two different levels. So Jill, go ahead.
So Nick explained it really well on what the concern is with carrying capacity in my mind, as a hydrologist. In my mind, carrying capacity, the way I think would be most helpful for us to look at it would be, what is the carrying capacity that currently gives us the water quality that we desire? Having said that, we already see that there is a diminished quality of water right now at Priest Lake. I've only been here 35 years, so not very long compared to some people like Terry Hill. But I can tell you there's a lot more plant growth and there's a lot more algae. And I have looked at the study by Jan Bohl, and it is a robust study. And it is showing that we are turning this lake. And I think our opportunity to dial that back is pretty limited. And I think the power of being able to dial that back is with the county. And the county is the one who mandates what land uses can happen at Priest Lake. And I think it's incumbent upon us to take this opportunity. And if it's not something we put down as a numerical value, I think that's going to be very expensive, as I explained to Milton in the email. Limnology studies are very expensive. And right now, the one being done by Bohl and by some other folks in the area is really being done almost on a volunteer basis. They're covering a lot of these costs themselves. And we're very fortunate they're getting this research. But I think the time is now. If we don't do something to stop this, the lake will turn in a way that we don't want it to be. And monetarily, we all have a lot to lose. But I think more importantly, it's the quality of life here we have at Priest Lake that we are saddling future generations with. And so I really would like to see us somehow, maybe it won't be a numerical value, Milton, but something where we say the value of Priest Lake is, and we've explained that in our earlier statements, but that we don't want to see any further degradation of water quality at Priest Lake in terms of, and then list that, phosphorus loading, clarity. And so no activities would take place that would adversely affect those qualities. And we know what they are. You don't build a lawn all the way down to the waterfront. You don't allow erosion to take place off of land that's delivering phosphorus laden soil. There are definite steps we can take. So it's not anything that's horrific. I think it's totally doable. That's it.
Okay. Terry, go ahead. Terry Hill, you've got to unmute yourself.
I'm sure glad you didn't hear the words I just said. What I want to say is that I think education for people when they get to the lake is one way, and maybe the only way, to keep our lake from getting worse, because they have the checkpoints. Great. Thank you very much, Eric Anderson, for getting that on the ground. But I think that just general education of boat launches around the lake is important. And I don't know if that gets done as much as it should. Over.
Okay. Debbie, go ahead.
I just think we're going down a rabbit hole with this discussion. I really understand the importance of water degradation, but until until these people who are doing these studies have actually pinpointed the cause, if the cause is no lawns going down to the water, that has nothing to do with what we're dealing with here in our chore. The county has no way to enforce whether or not someone puts a lawn. My guess would be if there's degradation going on in the lake, it's probably a lot more affected by a lot of the cabins along the lake that are not hooked up to sewer systems, that have old antiquated septics, and there's really nothing we can do about that. And so I think we need to keep in mind what our chore is, which is to talk about land use and land definitions, and to go some circuitous route and use the degradation of the lake. Yeah, this is going down the rabbit hole to me. This is, if somebody's hooked up to a sewer system, and if somebody doesn't have a lawn down to the lake, well, what's the problem? So we're going gray here.
Okay. Well, we do look at we do have ordinances, you know, for the 40-foot setback, and we do require native vegetation along the lake. It's difficult for us to enforce because we can't convince the board to buy us a boat, but we do have those ordinances already in place. So I think by stating a goal that encourages or re-emphasizes those things, shoreline codes, that I think it is okay. We do need to move on, but go ahead, Joe. So yeah, Jill, you need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I think it is a matter of education, but it is also huge a matter of enforcement. You can look at Grandview and see what happened on that landscape. Several hundred feet of shoreline has been scalped. There's no native vegetation left, and there was very little to begin with, I'll give you that, but what was there is gone. And so I know the county can't enforce everything that we're asking. I know that, but I think education is a really big part. And consequences. That's it.
Yep. Okay. Okay, good discussion. I'm gonna leave those just like that. We'll send this out and let you guys fill in, fix the wording, if you will. Okay. I think I've captured the ideas. Let's move on, and I'll send this out and rely on your personal knowledge to. Again, what we're trying to accomplish here is get something that helps the planning commission and the board to see that we're not trying to over-regulate here. We're trying to protect and continue and support the existing ordinances already in place. The shoreline code is up for rewrite this year. It's still it's going to take most of the year to get that done. We haven't even started any type of public stuff yet. So this is good. I don't have a problem with this. I'll send it out. We'll see what happens. Now, can we move back down to where we were? Anything that pops out that we need to, maybe some of those goals are more appropriate to come down here. Go ahead, Larry.
No, I was just going to say we can move. Go ahead and move.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
There's quite a delay between mute and unmute on my computer, unfortunately. Maybe a way to do this is to read through the policy statement one at a time, so that, you know, because for me, it's kind of hard to read all of this on my computer, but if we read through it, see if there's anybody that has any addition or changes or thoughts, and then we'll move on to the next one, kind of work our way right down, if that works, Milton.
Okay. Well, we just spent a lot of time talking about water quality. Some of those goals may need to come down, those policies may need to come down below here, probably be more appropriate. So we'll look at doing that. And I will set some time aside to work on this over the next 2 weeks. Let's see, policies. So regulations should protect natural lakes, rivers, and streams while at the same time protecting the rights of private property owners for the reasonable use and enjoyment of their properties. I think we've discussed these because the green marking in them. Direct new development to areas away from the shorelines and served by sewer now or within the time frame of the plan. Direct new development to areas away from shorelines. Maybe change the "and" to that "are," maybe something like that. Nick, what do you think? That
Sure.
"are"?
Yeah, that sounds, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Provide for smaller lot sizes in sewered areas that are away from shorelines to allow for development that would protect ground and surface water and associated riparian zone ecosystems. Sorry, I can speak English. Okay. Zoning districts should foster compact development patterns near transportation hubs and services. Sprawl should be avoided, as should high density development on shorelines. Continued development of existing lots 1 acre to 3rd acre lots. I don't remember why we added that sentence. Sprawl should be avoided, as should high density. No comments? Jill, go ahead.
I think it's in green, so I think that's when you added on the 22nd.
Yeah, I know. I added it at the last meeting, 119. So maybe that was to be re-engineered is what that was.
Maybe, because that seems really specific.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I think I'll just take it out. Go ahead, Terry.
I'm just worried about the sizes that you're saying for these lots, because a 1/3 lot doesn't seem very big to me. And if you can put 2 or 3 houses on a 1 acre lot, then you're going backwards again.
Yeah, I deleted that. Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you.
I'm just still kind of concerned about this word sprawl. To me, sprawl could be various meaning to lots of different people, but sprawl is kind of a funny word. Maybe there's a better term that could be used to explain that. Maybe you've got a good planning and zoning word for that.
Actually, the good planning and zoning word is sprawl.
Oh,
So yeah, that's a word very common in the planning field. So we understand it.
so how do you define the word sprawl then?
Well, I mean, it's the development just straight along the highway, right? For miles and not planned, right?
So unplanned development. I'm okay with it, whatever.
Okay.
Continue on.
All right. Nick, go ahead.
Along the lines that Larry was just discussing on sprawl, I too need a little bit of clarification. I'm just thinking about, for example, around Coolin right now, there are some lots that are appearing along the East Shore Road there or I guess it's a Dickensheet Road as you head south. And, I'm not saying those are good or bad, what's happening there. There are these developments that they're popping up in there. Is that something that would be considered sprawl, or is that, help me out on that?
So it's happening along Dickensheet.
Yes, as you head out of Coolin, and again, you're heading south, there are places that are coming up. And again, they look real nice. What I'm seeing there, aesthetically looks, good. I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm asking the question, is that an example of sprawl? In other words, they look like they're spaced out going along the road.
Yeah, they're 1 acre lots. That was a 14 lot subdivision approved back in 2017. So,
so what you're saying is that would not be an example of sprawl. Is that correct?
right, correct.
Okay.
But at the same time, it could be, because the challenge is that was all zoned rural service center. And so every one of those lots could have a business on it. And so that would be sprawl if every one of those lots ended up with a business on it. Because it's on both sides it's on both roads. It's on Dickensheet and East River. So, and you're going to start to see a business or two pop up in there. So, but yep, that would be an example of sprawl if it all turns to businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. When development occurs near shorelines, oh, Larry, go ahead.
So what you're saying, based on this language, if it's adopted, then someone comes in along the Dickensheet as an example and would like a 14 lot development, the county would then say, well, we're kind of reluctant to approve that because in our comprehensive plan, we're trying to avoid sprawl.
And so again, we would turn to the comprehensive plan and see what it was planned for. If it was, that's the challenge with allowing commercial inside recreation, or having that rural service center zone there, because every one of those lots can become commercial. When we were doing the development, I asked them, I said, are you sure that's what you want, is the ability to have every one of those lots be commercial? And they didn't think that was possible. They thought that people would buy homes or build homes there, but it does have the potential to be all business. So yeah, if we could have planned it a little better and said that the end lots or certain lots may be commercial, the rest have to be residential, I think it would have avoided the look of sprawl. So, all right, moving on. When development occurs near shoreline, steps to retain natural shoreline hydrologic processes and native vegetation and setback buffer areas should be encouraged. That's good. That's our shoreline code. All right. Goal, improve the method for citizen involvement in the ongoing land use decision-making process, provide opportunities for citizen participation in the implementation, review, and amendment of the adopted comprehensive plan. Let me look at these. I don't really have a problem with the goal. It's just that it's all covered by state statute on how citizen involvement or participation is done. And so promote citizen involvement, land use initiative. Promote citizen involvement. Okay, promote stakeholder awareness of pending land use changes in their area. I mean, we do all that stuff. So, Terry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I think you guys already do that stuff. If somebody's going to do a development, you guys send a thing out that says we're going to have a meeting for public input. So in my mind, you already do that. Over.
Yep, we do. And so putting the goals in there, that's fine. You're just restating. If there's something more you expect out of that, then you need to say it. But if this just continues things the way that they are, so I don't see any problems or challenges with these. I'm not sure this policy fits. The comprehensive use plan should identify land use designation for public lands that may convert to public ownership. I don't know that that fits under this goal. Terry, go ahead.
I just think that all of us were concerned that we want to have some kind of input. Should down the road the state say, great, let me do this land swap with someone. I think what we're trying to do is say there should be some type of guidelines, because we just, I don't know. I don't really know. Nick and you guys, you probably are better at this than me. Over.
I think you're right on exactly on the right track, and that is communication, and communication to the folks that it impacts, and certainly, identifying any potential for that kind of conversion, I think is important for us to know, be aware of.
Well, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, it's all convertible, right? All 70% of the county can be converted to private land. So, Jill,
And that's what we don't want to have happen.
I understand that's what you don't want to have happen. I get that. Jill, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I think you hit a nerve with the group that is there any way politically, because this is where it's going to really, the rubber's going to hit the road. I don't think the Bonner County commissioners are going to go along with this, but ideally, if we could somehow have a line between private property along the lake on the east side, that we say no development is encouraged. And that's that land use. I know it's a state land thing, but if we put the something out there that we said, this piece of property, we do not want to see development on at Priest Lake because, and then list what those reasons are, whether they're visual or land use limited or slope, something. But I think that would kind of hit the mark. I don't know if it would fly, but I think that would hit the mark.
Okay. Yeah, it just doesn't belong under this goal is all. So, Susie, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I apologize for being late, first of all, but secondly, are we talking about, we're talking about state lands, I'm guessing here. And to me, I don't think we can tell the state what they can and can't do with their land. You know,
You're right, Susie. You're right. And I don't think we can. This is Jill.
And I think Milton's right. If we try to put any kind of an encouragement to get the state to consider changes to land designation or what can or can't be done with a piece of land, I think that needs to be through the public involvement through the state, not through our comp plan. But I think there could possibly be a statement somewhere else in the plan that would encourage the county to work with the state to make sure that we address these problems. Because I know where your thinking is coming from this. I mean, I totally understand that. But I don't think we have any control here.
Yep, I agree. Debbie?
Not only does the county not have any control, but putting any sort of verbiage that would put restrictions on the state could set the county up for huge legal liability. And I don't think any of us want to pay for the state suing the county. The state's not going to want to be told by Bonner County. They're not going to tolerate being told by Bonner County what they can do with their land.
Yeah, so, and I understand all that. Let me just kind of share my concern. At the last county I worked for, we had a guy that purposely went out and bought forest in holdings, well, private in holdings inside the Forest Service. And he purposely bought them so he could exchange them with land around this small community on the edge of the forest. And so he went out and spent millions of dollars buying these in holdings that the Forest Service wanted. And then he went and traded them. When he went and traded them, the Forest Service appraised the land based on our comprehensive plan, which was the lowest use available. And so he got the forest land around this area for $15,000 an acre, where everybody else was buying it for $100,000 an acre. And that was based on, our assessment from the comprehensive plan, because we didn't want it to develop. And so I just am concerned that if we go too far with this, it comes back to bite us in a different way. So we just got to really be careful. I understand and what you're saying, Jill, and I don't really have a problem with that idea. We just need to be careful of it. Nick, your hands up.
I understand exactly what you're saying, Milton, and in terms of wanting to avoid having something like that occur. In looking at the McCall comprehensive use plan and what they're doing there, they've established green zones. In other words, areas that they consider to be important to keep, not only for aesthetic reasons, but also for, again, water quality reasons, set aside. And those areas are not currently in private ownership. And so I guess my question is, again, it's not I know we're not talking about policy at this point, we're talking about land use designations, but I think that we would be wise to consider a land use designation that is I think down there they call it a conservation ag something. But it's a green zone, and essentially it's an area that you put aside to make sure that development does not occur in those areas. And I think that we would be wise to consider that as we look at the land use designations.
And I guess the other question to Debbie's point is how do we know how the state would respond to that? Do we know what their answer would be if we said, hey, we've identified this as green space, open space? Do they give it any weight at all? Do they pay attention to it? Do they care? Because they sure didn't care about my zoning ordinances when, they put those subdivisions in up there at Priest Lake, the county zoning ordinance. Terry?
You'd think I'd been drinking. I can't find the mute button, but I haven't. Upper Priest Lake could be definitely a green zone. In my head, when I think of going around Priest Lake, I'm not quite sure where other green zones might be that we would want to maybe set into a green zone. Maybe Nick, you know of some areas on the east side that I'm not thinking about. All I can think of is the Upper Lake for sure, which probably will never be developed anyway. Over.
Okay, Larry, your hands up.
I think the Upper Lake is designated to the point that there will not be any. I don't think it'll change. I think it was I can't remember how that was put together, but I think it was a partnership between the federal government and the state of Idaho. And I think it is now a designated natural area. I don't think it's going to change. I guess in some people's mind, and I might even agree, all of the state land that's not developed at this point is probably what Nick would call, or Payette called, the Ag Forest Conservation Area, which is great. I think also if there is a change and there's a possibility that the state is going to do a land swap, or if not a land swap, decide to sell off some of their land, I think by statute in the state that there's probably a pretty strong requirement that they have to have public hearings, public input. And of course, every one of us will probably be lining up at that point. And it could be with that public input, it would be even maybe more emphasis than something that would be placed in this comprehensive plan document. So you know that there'll be probably next to no one, unless you're a developer, but next to no one at Priest Lake that's going to go, yeah, this is really a cool idea. So I think over time, if something like this does occur, there'll be a crowd of us that will step up and say, no, we want to keep it. We can want to keep it this green conservation area.
Yeah. Bob, go ahead.
Don't we get a similar impact by regulating lot sizes, frontage measurements, and lot sizes and the density of buildings on those? When new land comes up for development, they're going to want to look to, or probably will look to, what's being done in areas around the lake. If we have established something that's palatable for lot sizes and number of buildings or dwellings on those, I would think that would probably have the most influential impact on what you can do with that. Now, some cities, and we're not a city, I realize that, which changes a whole lot, but grant special allowances for density of buildings if you set aside certain areas as natural or green areas. And I think you have some provisions for that under some conditions. We could explore that as a trade-off, but we really don't want to see a whole bunch more grand views happen. We drive by that every time we leave here, and it is absolutely ghastly. I'm sure someone will have access, a number of families will have access to the lake because of that, but good heavens, that's not what we're looking for. But can't we get at that? In fact, I was bothered by the fact that we left in the policy that talks about directing development away from the lake. I think people are going to buy where they want to buy, and if they can get lakeshore, they probably will. I don't know how we discourage them unless we're punitive in choosing lot sizes that are unaffordable by people. Rather, a more honest approach would be to choose sizes of lots that we can live with. But am I wrong? Can we not manage much of what we're after by proper designation of lot sizes? That was kind of why I put in the 100-foot frontage as a minimum and a minimum of a half-acre lot size. I expected that to be argued some, and I didn't mind that, but the idea was to put something in that would not have cabins bunched together on the shoreline in close array, like some sort of a scenic you have of a Norwegian port.
All right. All right, Nick?
Bob, I agree with you. That's to me, that's one half of the equation, to define a minimum shoreline length for the areas that are being developed. I think the other part, though, is actually identifying how much of the total lake do we want to be developed. And in fact, if we are close to the limiting capacity of the lake, what would that be? One of the things that I did this weekend was I went through and spent a lot of time on the GIS and actually looked at the shoreline and how much of our lake is currently developed. On the east side, it comes out to 63%. On the west side, it comes out to 42%. And I'll just make a side note. What I consider to be developed was any residential, resort, and service development. It did not include campgrounds and day use areas, that sort of thing. And of course, as we know by living on the lake, there's a significant amount of variation as we come, from the north down through the south. For example, on the east side of the lake, the thoroughfare down to Canoe Point is about 23%. From Canoe Point down to Two Mouth is about 54%. Then you go from Two Mouth to Indian Creek, it jumps up to 77%. And then from Indian Creek to 8 Mile Point, it winds up being about 47%. You get into the Rocky Point to Soldier Creek area, that's about 100%. And then Soldier Creek to the outlet winds up being about 57. So then again, on the east side, it's about 63%, west side about 42%. And of course, on the west side, you have from the thoroughfare down to Twin Island, that's only about 7%. We have a lot of green space in there. That's a beautiful part of the lake, of course. Twin Islands to Elkins Road, about 65%. Elkins down to Reynolds, about 36%. And then Reynolds Creek down to outlets, about 64%. Again, so the west side has about 42%. So right now, the total, again, looks like about 54% of our lake as having development. And to take and say, okay, well, what is what is the limit to that? I think would be a good thing for us to have.
Okay. Bob?
Unless we come up with another reason for limiting the percentage development other than we've got ours and we don't want anybody else to spoil what we've got, I don't think we're going to be able to sell that. It smells bad. I kind of like the idea, but I can't honestly say I could put it forth with a straight face and explain it to somebody that didn't sound like, I've got mine and I'm sorry that you don't have yours. You have to wait in line for somebody to die and sell.
Right.
Yeah, this is Brent. I agree with what Bob's saying, and it really kind of comes down to what can you put into this comprehensive plan? What can we do here? Or are we getting outside the ability to do something? Or if we put something in, are the commissioners just going to say, no, that's not going to work? So I think we need some direction from you, Milt, on how far we can take this.
So, and so we're at the point on this topic. I'm just kind of listening to your guys' conversation and making some notes, and I'm gonna have to spend a little bit of time going back and looking at this goal and this idea. I have several questions. I mean, I'm sure there's a standard for the carrying capacity of the lake. I don't know if that's a federal standard or a national standard or a organizational standard or whatever. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, we keep talking about this measurable goal, and so I just need to get a little more understanding of it. This, once we get done with this plan, it'll go to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm expecting to have a new planner starting that has quite a bit of experience with long range planning, and so I'm just trying to create the best product available for that person and for the P&Z Commission to be able to move forward. So I just need to make sure that our goals make sense and that they're reasonable. By definition, comprehensive planning is intended for private land. It's not intended for public land. However, by putting some goals in here that discuss some public land, we may be able to provide some direction to the state. But like I said, with the subdivisions that they did up there, they did not pay attention to the government, to the county regulations. That's why, as these lots have come into private ownership, we have had so many variances and different applications trying to deal with the size of the lots and the way that they were designed, because they did not design them to county standards. So I just don't know that they'll listen. So you can stand up and shout all day long, but they're not going to listen. I don't know. So let's finish up with this. I've got these notes here. I want to move on to the next document, if I can figure out how. Oh, nice. I might figure out how after all. I think this is the document I want to share. I don't know if this is the right one. I don't think this has Bob's stuff in it. Let's see.
I think the one that you have there is Nick's, which to me is things he added to Bob's.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Very good. Talk about up close and personal. All right, so let's talk about land use designations real quickly. So we're not, it's really easy to start writing zoning ordinances when you're writing land use designations. But what we're trying to do is create generalized statements that describe what this area should look like. They're not supposed to be, you know, blue houses with green lawns on and white picket fences, right? They're not supposed to be that type of design. They're supposed to be backed up and, you know, one example was that I looked at was, you know, vault toilets shall be in campgrounds only or something like that. There's a better way to say that so it's not, so it doesn't sound like a zoning ordinance. Okay. So that's what we're after is more generalized statements that will guide the writing of those ordinances and also changes. So as we read through this, keep that in mind, and hopefully we'll get through this fairly quickly. So the proposed land use matrix below lists general uses and characteristics of each of the map designations important to the Priest Lake area. So,
Hey, Milton, could you scroll? Milton, this is Debbie. You're on number 6 on my screen.
whoa, how is that possible?
I don't know.
Oh, my screen sharing is paused. How very interesting. Resume share. How's that?
I'm still looking at number 6. Am I the only one?
It just now changed. It looks good now.
Oh, there. Okay, now, yeah. Okay, with you now. Thank you. Thank you.
All these Zoom features.
And the other thing I'm not noticing is on mine, when I got it in the email, Nick's is in red, but I guess it's just in a slightly different font. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So the map covers 1.1 million acres, generally in nature, and it is recognized that some areas may have more moderate slopes or include transportation features that cannot be mapped on this scale. That's probably straight out of our stuff, right? So commercial designation. Let me just look at these real quick. So those are the 3 commercial designations that we want here. Are commercial, neighborhood commercial, and light industrial. Is that right? Is that all of them?
Right, and the neighborhood commercial covers resorts.
Okay. So the commercial classification is reserved for those areas of the county where commercial activities can take place. These areas require primary transportation routes, urban like water and sewer, fire and police services, appropriate buffering from residential activities. So commercial can exist in any sewer district. Is that what that says?
I think that's straight out of your comp plan. We were looking at your comp plan.
Okay,
I think it's pretty darn close. The goal that Bob and I had talked about, and then Bob actually wrote these, but we saw a difference between what we would define as industrial and what we would define as commercial. So that's why we did a separate one for industrial.
yep, I like that. Very good. Okay. So I don't have any challenges with this. Okay to move on? All right. Dang. I really don't want to run you guys down a rabbit trail, but well, let's move on. Neighborhood commercial. Neighborhood commercial area is designed to provide light commercial uses to serve the needs of rural communities and tourist trade without adversely affecting residential neighborhoods. Urban services and primary transportation systems such as state highways or major minor collector roads are required. Adjoining neighbors should be provided the opportunity to review and advise on commercial design plans, including building aesthetics, landscaping, buffers, and signage. I must not have read to my kids when they were young. Nick, your turn.
I actually had a question back up there on commercial. It would help me to understand maybe what examples we consider to be as part of commercial. Are we including resorts? Are we including, that? I'm sorry. I'm just, my head was back still on commercial, trying to make sure that I was clear on what that was all encompassing.
I misspoke, Nick, because what we did was we took transition, because I just looked at the county plan. We took transition and we broke that up. So the commercial one is new. So that was my mistake a minute ago.
But I'm just wondering about the types of examples of what you would consider to be commercial development. What would be a list of things that you would include in there?
In my mind, the definition of commercial would be, to me, commercial means places that have points of sale. Whereas industrial is more, so we didn't put examples. He put examples under light industrial. So commercial, I would say, is the Tamarack, the little store, the places that actually exercise commerce.
So you are you thinking about including things like the resorts? Would, for example, a Hills?
Hope you cut out there. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, you cut out. Say it again.
Okay, I'm wondering, I'm going back to the examples on commercial. Would it include things like Hills and Elkins and?
That would be neighborhood commercial.
Okay. So it would not include things like the Grandview? Is that correct?
Grandview is a residential development.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think there's going to be any commerce or industry there. I don't think they have anything public going on there. I don't think that's in the plan. Milton would know. I didn't go to any of the public hearings, but I think that's going to be all private now.
My concern is that, Milton was talking about making things general, which I appreciate, and that I think that part of the reason that we have, and I know we keep using Grandview as an example, part of the reason that has occurred is it probably has been too general. When we consider, for example, right now, all the locations that have recreational designation land use. It includes things like Copper Bay, Granite Creek, the Grandview, Bear Creek, behind Elkins, Pinto Point area, Indian Creek area, 8 Mile, Hunt Creek, a large portion of Kalispell Bay, Hills Resort, the golf course, and Outlet Bay. So I think, so that's why I'm trying to get my head around what kinds of things we're talking about as we go through each one of these. And it just is, I apologize. I have sometimes a hard time getting my head around what we're considering. So examples would be helpful after each of these for me. Again, that's just difficulty that I have.
Well, in the designation for commercial, it says where commercial activities can take place. So I don't know, I guess we could give a better definition of commercial, but I wouldn't see Grandview fitting into either the commercial or the neighborhood commercial or the light industrial. Grandview's a private development on private land. So Grandview wouldn't fit into these at all. But commercial activities, do you want a better definition for commercial activities?
No, again, examples. I think examples would help out. That kind of depict the range of what you're considering to be commercial.
Hey, Debbie, this is Jill. Would you consider if Grandview were some kind of weekly rental program, would you consider that differently rather than homes?
The county has ordinances in place for nightly rentals. And so I think that's really the only thing that something has to answer to when private property owners do nightly rentals. They have a whole list of ordinances that they have to do. You mean if it had been built with that if it was built as but then it's a resort.
Well, like a timeshare. Yeah, so I guess it would be a resort. It would be neighborhood commercial.
Yeah, then it would be a resort, but it was built as a private development. And if one of the private, I don't know if they have an HOA there, but if they allow nightly rentals, then that's going to have to answer to what the county already has mandated for nightly rentals. I don't know. I guess I don't really understand putting in examples, because if we put in an example, say we put in the example of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. Elkins, and for some reason down the road Elkins doesn't exist. If we want to define commercial activities better, I could see doing that. Bob, you wrote these, if you want to say something here.
No, I didn't want to add anything. I thought it was fairly clear what we had. We added the word resort areas and neighborhood commercial. I think adding your definition, Debbie, that commercial is where sales take place. And I don't have a problem with putting examples in. I remember reading the others and finding some clarity and seeing those. If one or two become obsolete in time, that's not a problem for me. I wouldn't mind putting examples in here, because I saw when Nick put in the recreation and resort areas, I thought we had covered that with neighborhood commercial, but it was easy to miss apparently. So examples probably would help.
Can Terry go next?
Yep, Terry can go next.
Okay, so when I think of commercial, my mind wants to think of a new business coming into Priest Lake that would be doing something like making clothes like Coldwater Creek and shipping them out. That would be a business that could come in. It would be bigger commercial, not neighborhood commercial. So we don't have any big commercial here. All we really have is the light industry. So in my mind, the commercial would be a bigger business coming in that would be able to have staff working for it, be able to provide more year-round stuff, which would all be great because we don't have that. I also think that at the after light industry, you have those little bullet parts that due to the intensity of land use these areas require. I think those bullet points should be for all three of those. Over.
Over. Okay, Susie, your hands up. Yeah, you need to unmute yourself.
Am I up?
Yep, you're up.
Okay, so, you know, in the real estate market, commercial is usually businesses that serve or do something for someone else without a residential aspect to them. So it would be your fuel stations, your real estate offices, your clothing stores, your golf course, those kind of things that don't have a residential aspect to them. Your neighborhood commercial would be those things that intermix with small commercial. Could be somebody that is a seamstress that or a daycare that you know, just like here in Priest River, you can have a daycare right in the middle of a residential area. Those would be neighborhood commercial. They would be something that serves someone else, you know, receives a pay for it, but basically is within a residential area. So your resorts would be the neighborhood commercial. Your light industrial would be just like it's stated there. Your storage units, anybody that's fabricating, building docks, your sawmill, I don't know what else, but anyway, that's a good description there. But as far as separating out commercial and neighborhood commercial would have the residential aspect to it as if you were in an incorporated city. You know, it would be predominantly residential, but it would have your resorts, daycares, you know, a mom pop business that she does a little seamstress work at home kind of thing. Those would be your neighborhood commercial. But I think maybe we do need some examples there, you know, because it's probably not clear to everybody. But as far as, you know, me dealing in real estate, I mean, that's what our definitions are of these different, you know, different categories.
Okay. Yeah, the good discussion. The commercial is definitely, it definitely is different than neighborhood commercial. There's probably a way to say it. It would be easier to say it in neighborhood commercial to indicate that neighborhood commercial is designed. It says it, right? The needs of the community, right? And the tourist trade. So I need to go in and turn on my highlighter. Okay. So yeah, let's not get distracted with multifamily housing and those types of projects. Those projects are definitely not commercial. Their Grandview was a planned unit development. That's how they got the density that they got, was they did a planned unit development. And it was not intended to be a resort. It's not a resort. It's individual duplexes that will be, or it's duplexes that will be condo platted, I think. So in the end, so Susie, go ahead.
One thing I forgot to mention was, I guess I don't really know what has transpired up there at Grandview. I heard a lot of rumors, but I never did hear exactly what happened up there. But it sounds like it all went private. Private individuals own these, are they condos or units up there? But out throughout the county, you have people that have private homes, private condos that will do VRBOs or vacation rentals. And they have the right to do that as long as they follow the rules, laid down by the county. And so these folks up there at Grandview, from what I'm hearing, have the same right to do that. Now, if the whole Grandview all of a sudden turned into one great big VRBO, then I would guess that the county would step in and say, okay, you guys aren't true VRBOs, you're a resort. So
we wouldn't, because if they're individually owned, the state statute changed about 2 years ago, and they said that vacation rentals is not a commercial use. So if they're individually owned, we would not step in. So it's been an interesting couple of years. Nick, your hands up.
Help us out here, Milton. My guess is that down on the Warren Beach area, we're going to be seeing some additional development, and we're probably too late to impact that at this point. But just looking to that, what can we do, or towards any future developments like that? What can we do to integrate a lot of the things that really help? Number one, water quality of the lake. Number two, the aesthetics. Much like we see, when we look at Elkins, when we look at Hills, again, those are beautiful places, and they're serving a lot of people. Yet the impact to water quality and aesthetics are both very, very good. So I guess my question is, what can we do as part of our planning process here to help encourage that, whether it's at Warren Beach or wherever that might be next, if that makes sense? So yeah, help us out on that.
Well, again, it's just, I think the goals and policies address that, because the plan has to be, if they come in for a conditional use permit, or they come in for a development, a PUD, it has to be reviewed against the comprehensive plan. And so those goals include protecting that. So they would have to show as part of their application that's being done. Yeah, Warren Beach is going to be an interesting one, because it's all floodplain and wetlands. So that's going to be a tough one. Jill, go ahead.
Yeah, the Forest Service is the one that manages the land for Elkins and Hills, and they're pretty strict on what's allowed there, as well as all of the lease lots they have on the west side. So until the county adopts something similar, I don't see us really getting a lot of traction. And I was hoping that this exercise would lend itself towards that, so that we could have some beautiful development that still protects the lake. So yeah, I agree with you, Nick, on what you said earlier.
Okay. Well, good discussion. Again, trying to identify the 3 different types of commercial. I guess what I'm picturing is commercial is going to be your bigger uses, probably including gas stations, mini marts, grocery stores. Neighborhood commercial, the challenge with that is the right now in the recreation area, boat storage is permitted. Storage units are permitted with conditional use permits, but they're allowed. And I always thought storage units were bigger commercial type projects or even light industrial, but we're trying to take care of the tourist trade, and so we've got to allow boat storage down next to the lake, right? So maybe it would be good to identify some descriptors that separate the types of businesses that you're talking about.
This is Terry, and I would consider under storage units, how about that it being light industrial? Because nobody's going to build a storage unit down on the lake necessarily. Right now, most of them are built up on Highway 57. So maybe that could be considered light industry. Over.
Yeah.
This is Debbie. It's already listed under light industrial. It says storage units right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. Okay. What else do we got? There are some more storage units going in up there. One is going to be along Dickens Street. Another one's going to be along Kavanaugh Bay Road. We've got conditional use permit applications we're processing for those two locations right now. So, and I think we just finished one up and we've got another one coming. So I think we got 4 boat storage units going in up there. Larry, go ahead.
Under neighborhood commercial, I think Terry added this, the part that's was in red, at least the document I have, but it's right at the end. And it talked about adjoining neighbors, opportunity to preview. Can you talk a little bit about, you see what I'm talking about, what she added towards the end, right before should this be in policies or here? Can you kind of explain there what's going on?
Yeah. So I was just kind of working through some ideas here. This is a tough one because it sets a huge precedence if you go with it, or it sets a huge barrier. If you require conditional use permits for all types of neighborhood commercial, I think you inhibit growth, or you inhibit the ability for somebody to use their properties. And so I wrote that down there because a conditional use permit really is the way to address some of these concerns. So, because that's where neighbors get the opportunity to advise on all of these types of things. So, what my other concern with neighborhood commercial is, I think that it needs to be at intersections and not necessarily along roadways, or it needs to be, strategically designated. So if you understand what I'm saying, so it doesn't just, it just doesn't end up everywhere, right? So, Susan, go ahead.
My question, Milton, was if someone was going to put in a neighborhood commercial, let's say they were going to put in a daycare, or don't they have to have public hearings and a certain period of advertising to where the adjoining properties of so much footage are allowed to respond to what that proposal is that's being built?
Yeah. Yeah, there are many commercial uses that do require conditional use permits that require that public hearing process. So. I'm just kind of looking real quick at. Yeah, there's lots that require conditional use permits. There's lots of just flat out permitted uses, but I think I'm getting some ideas here though, on some ideas I could put together and get sent out to you. Susie, go ahead.
I guess one question I have is, like, an example I'm thinking about is Kavanaugh Bay, the boat launch down there. They have the restaurant and they have the boat launch, and they have a little picnic area over there. And, you know, I know they store boat trailers down off of Kalispell Bay Road. But let's say they owned a parcel close to the, I don't know if you want to call it a resort, not really a resort, the restaurant. And they wanted to do a small boat storage unit up there. You know, I would think this neighborhood commercial could allow that, possibly with a conditional use permit where the adjoining properties have the right to have input. But it could also possibly be allowed where without that, I don't see how they could, you know, if they had to be kicked up back into the commercial arena. Maybe they can only house 6 to 8 boats. Where if they're going to have any more than that, they'd have to be kicked up on the highway up in the commercial category.
Okay, it's very good ideas. Let me do this. We're running short on time, and I want to get some more ideas on some of these from you on some of these other ones. What I'd like to do is I'd like to set aside, at least for myself, and offer you the opportunity, if one or two of you want to participate, maybe Friday, I'll sit down for an hour and work on this. And if some of you wanted to call in or participate, we could update and change some of these things so they make a little more sense. We'll see. I don't want to take any more of your time, but I want to spend some time on Friday working on those. But I want some more ideas on what your thoughts are with some of these other ideas, waterfront residential and some of the residential zone or designations. See, even use it. I use that. So any thoughts on residential, what we're trying to accomplish? Waterfront residential, these areas generally contain frontage on the lakes, and this is still from the existing document. It's not called waterfront residential though. Yeah, this needs to be updated.
I think this was a new one, wasn't it, Bob?
Yes.
Susie's got her hand up.
Okay. Okay. Susie, go ahead.
I'd like to comment on the half-acre lots. My opinion is that's too small. I'd rather see them be acre lots. You know, you go up into that Huckleberry Bay area or that east side, the north end there. Some of those lots are literally on top of each other, and that's pretty dense. There's probably not a lot of the lake left that isn't already developed, but I would rather see those be acre lots myself.
Okay. Okay, I'll just add that in there as a note. Okay. Nick, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I agree with Susie on the 1 acre piece, but a question that I had is I noticed you put in wetlands. Are we really trying to encourage the development on shoreline wetland areas?
I thought these areas generally contain frontage. I think we need to address it. I don't think we're trying to encourage it. I think we're trying to address it, right?
Oh, okay, so for example, I'm thinking about like around Bear Creek, there's an area where there's wetland, or even down the Warren Beach area. I mean, by including the word wetlands there, that almost seems like that's what we want to have happen. But I think normally we would want to, because of the value that wetlands have for, again, the water quality component, in addition, of course, ecosystem part. That was just a question I had, why we would want that word to be there. Floodplain, I understand, but yeah.
Okay, I don't have a problem removing it. I just thought that it made sense. Larry, go ahead.
So if we're talking about the frontage, 150 feet requirement, can you refresh our memory? I think I know what the answer is, but it's good to hear from you, is what the current requirement is. So we know what the current under the comp plan as far as frontage, property, lot size, and calculation versus what we're proposing.
Yeah, so that's a good point. That's the challenge with some of this is it's currently not in the comp plan, right? It's in the zoning ordinance. And it talks about 100 feet, but it also talks about 200 feet. I just have not spent a lot of time to see if I can find that off the top of my, but it's in the zoning ordinance. And so, you know, we're saying that the waterfront residential goes down where waterfront residential is within 300 feet of the water line. Okay. The minimum lot size is a half acre or 1 acre. The minimum shoreline lot frontage is 100 feet. So density would be limited to 1 single family home and 1 ADU. And then minimum access requirements. So if we were looking at a map and we have this designation in front of us, and we're going to lay this designation down, is there an area around Priest Lake that currently matches all of these requirements? So where does it fit, right? Where does it lay down? So Debbie, you have a comment?
Doesn't the county still have the 1 to 3 width to length requirement? Wouldn't that be a little difficult to satisfy with only 100 feet of frontage and then requiring a full 1 acre? You'd end up having a bunch of long skinny lots.
Yep. Yep, that's a good point too.
So I don't think, that's why Bob and I made it, if it was gonna be the 100 feet, it worked out satisfying the 1 to 3 by having a 1/2 acre. I think the numbers would work out that you'd have to have 200 minimum feet to go an acre. That's a pretty big lot. That's pretty big.
Yep, and we'd end up with all these variances because people can't meet that, so. Because like I said, we're looking at stuff that's already, yeah. It's a good point. Good catch. Okay. Yeah, I see why the 1 acre doesn't make it there. Any other thoughts?
I looked at lots that were just north of Granite Creek to see how that 1/2 acre fit and kind of sized it from there. There are ones that are slightly larger than 1/2 acre, but it appeared to me that there were some that were less than 1/2 acre that were very generous lots with 100 feet of frontage. So I put that in for something for us to throw rocks at. We could go with 1/3 and make it work, 1/3 acre, and we could go with 1 acre. 1 acre just looked awfully large for the dimensions that you've said you want to have to avoid the long, slender lots.
Yep. Okay, Nick, go ahead.
I was considering the lots on the east side. In the area that I studied quite a bit was from the Indian Creek north up to the Two Mouth Creek area, and in our neck of the woods there, it is fairly common to have, that kind of shore frontage. Many of them are more like 120 feet or 130 feet, but 100 feet we're saying is the minimum. And many of them are in that 1 acre type size. Anyway, it seemed like it was a good fit, but I could understand why we could maybe consider a little less, but yeah.
Okay.
Nick, weren't those lots that were developed by the state? Because I know when I subdivided some land outside of Sandpoint, I had to meet the 1 to 3 ratio.
You're correct. Most of those are lots that were plotted out by the state for the lease. Yes.
Okay. I agree. This probably needs to go backwards, so. We're good. I'm stopping. I'm done. Larry, what do you think?
I'm fine with stopping, but do you want to have a meeting on Friday?
Well, I just, 1 or 2 of you to help bounce off some ideas, that's all.
Okay, I don't think I can participate anyway, so I'm out.
Yeah, that's fine. I just looking for somebody to bounce ideas.
I would almost, and it's entirely up to who wants to participate, but I think Nick has a lot of input, and I think Bob also, and maybe some others also, but I see, right, they've done a lot of homework in putting this together, and I think their input's going to be good. And I think the majority of us will support their participation. So, and others can participate. So Milt, it's kind of up to you to get the word out and see who wants to participate. And
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Milton, would you like me to just schedule a Google Meet on the calendar and those who want can join?
Yeah, let me look at my calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be early, like 10 o'clock or something. But yeah.
And you're talking about a 1 hour meeting.
Yeah, I just want to sit down and go through these. If somebody wants to, so I'm doing this for my schedule. So, I mean, you can't imagine, we took in 26 land use files in January. And so 15 of them require public hearings. And so we're just been inundated with files. And then of course, we've hired 3 new people. They'll be starting in the next few weeks. We're going to have to hire 2 more. So it just got busy on us all of a sudden. Not sure what happened to 2020, but I'm starting to like it.
So
Yeah.
this would just be like a email invitation. And once you click on it, you can just say, join Google Meet, and it'll pop up that way. And you don't have to log in or go to Zoom or anything. Pretty easy.
So from here, then, Milton, you're going to be looking at there's quite a bit we've gone over today. There's, I don't know how many times you said, I'm going to need to look at this and I'll work on it. So I think there's a bunch of things that I'm sure you earmarked as a part of this discussion. The other, as we look ahead, as it stands right now, we have 3 more meetings scheduled before we're, at the point we're supposed to have this all pulled together. And I guess what Milton and I talked yesterday a little bit about this, but kind of laying out where we can hope to be by the end of March. And so I've kind of asked him to provide us a little bit of guidance. Obviously, land use is the most important. I think once we are able to come up with these land use designations, we need to look at the map and we need to say, okay, here's our area of Bonner County around Priest Lake, and these land use designations, I think we need to apply to that designation for that particular parcel or area. And so I think that once we get through the designations, that may be the next step. And I guess, Milton, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong on that. And so that's kind of where we're working towards, I think. So Milton, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, so the Blanchard area has finished up their plan, and they're doing a presentation to the P&Z Commission Thursday night. So that opportunity still exists. Here's what it requires is it requires us to come up with a as much as possible, finish up this plan, and then we'd have to do a presentation in the Priest Lake area somewhere where we, put out copies of this document, have a meeting with the public, allow them to look it over, see if they have any comments or ideas or thoughts, and then we would, and then after that we would present it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think that I think it's important to do that because it gives the Planning and Zoning Commission the chance to see the faces that put this document together. And so when they review it, it's not just, they're not just looking at words on a paper and wondering where those words came from. So I think it would be important to have that meeting. So we've actually put a schedule that for June sometime. So it's on our calendar to do. And that's what we'd like to do. Then after that, we would, then like I said, after that, then it becomes part of the county's planning commission's task to finally put this document together as a county-wide document. So that's kind of what the plan is going forward. This is what happens when you have turnover like this. It just changes the direction a little bit, adds a little tweaks in how we're going to get there. We're still going to get there. It just, I have to admit, I'm encouraged by the applications that we've received. So hopefully we'll get the help in here that can spend the time on this and give it the attention it needs. And Jill, I hate to say it out loud, we've actually interviewed a few folks with some great environmental degrees. They could hopefully answer some of these questions and help get some of this stuff clarified better. So I have high hopes. We'll see how it all plays out.
And we're in a little, yeah, go ahead. So we're in a little bit of a dilemma because one, you've had some departures, or at least one that we're fully aware of, Amanda leaving, and then also that you're looking to restaff, and at the same time, we've got a short period of time to complete the majority of our work. So anyway, having that meeting on Friday, I think will help keep moving this along. I think we had some good participation today. And if nothing else, since it's 101, we'll go ahead and I guess everybody can say aye to closing our meeting for today. All in favor, say aye.
Larry, do we have a time for Friday?
I think he said 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. My phone rang. Sorry. Excuse me.
And I have already sent out that invite, everybody, so let me know if you didn't receive it.
Larry, I'm kind of wondering if we have anybody listening in that has a question. I have no idea because I can't see that on my computer.
I don't see any questions.
Okay, good.
So we'll go ahead and adjourn till we meet again. Some will join up on Friday, and others we will be 2 weeks from today, which must be, in my mind, must be the 16th. So we'll see everyone then.
All right, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Milton.
Thank you.